Now, there are many ways in C++ Builder exe3 to build database applications. In this video, I'm going to show you one way using the client dataset and local tables. And then in future videos, I'll show you how to connect with remote SQL databases and also multi-tier applications. So first, we'll say File, New, C++ Builder FireMonkey desktop application. And we'll put down a client dataset. And the client dataset is one way to access data. You could right mouse click on the client dataset and say load from my base table. Client dataset supports loading data from XML files and a CDS or client dataset file. So we'll open up the BioLife client dataset. It's part of the sample data that comes with C++ Builder exe3. We can right mouse click and choose the Live Bindings wizard from the pop-up menu. And the way that Live Bindings wizard shows up is in Tools, Options, Live Bindings. We've got this checkbox that's off by default, but you can turn it on saying Display Live Binding Wizard in the right-click menu. And in exe3, you can use the Visual Live Bindings Designer to bind data from a data source, from a client dataset, from a DB Express SQL database by right-mouse clicking and bringing up the Live Bindings Wizard. So what I'm going to do is choose to link a control with a field, and that control we can choose from several different ones. I'm going to choose a tedit, and I'm going to get the data from the client dataset. And I'm going to put the common name for this dataset, which is a dataset of fish. So we'll have the common name, and we're going to add a data source navigator to move through the data in the client dataset, and we'll add a control label onto the tedit box. So now we've got the bind navigator at the top, so we can move the edit box up, and it's got its label with it. And the first fish, its common name was clown triggerfish. Bind source DB was also created. And the bind source DB is a connection from the client dataset to the binding elements. We'll align the navigator to the top of the client area, just so it's there. And the bind navigator has additional buttons that we can choose. Go down to the visual buttons property and turn on apply updates and cancel updates, and that gives us access to all the buttons. If you just want to move through the rows of data, then you could turn on just the first, prior, next, and last, and turn off all the edit buttons. We'll also right mouse click and do another binding. We'll link a control with a field, and we'll put an edit box again. In this case, we'll use the bind source DB that was created for us, and we'll put the length in inches of the fish, and we'll add a control label to it. And now we have the length in inches. We'll put that up here. So there's two more columns that we want to get from the client dataset. One is a text blob field, so we'll right mouse click, say Live Binding Wizard, link control with field. We'll choose the tmemo, and we'll use the bind source DB. And then we'll finish, and now we've got this text blob in a memo field, which has some data about the fish. And in the memo, we'll turn on word wrap. And the last thing we'll add is a graphic control, because the other part that's in the client dataset is an image of the fish. So we'll say timage control, and we'll connect that to the bind source DB. And then it's the graphic column name, and we're done. And we can make this grow to be the size that we want, and it'll scale the image. And there's the image of our fish. And we can save all of this out to our hard drive, and we'll save the source file. There's the precompiled header, and then the main program, which is our CPP BioLife. We can run the application, and we can step through the different fish and get the data. We can also use the View Live Bindings Designer, and down below I've docked the binding designer so that I can visualize it and see what's happening while I'm working with the controls and make it look a little better. Here's the bind source DB, and here's the navigator. Here's the different fields. So just clean things up. And we'll spend a lot more time in another video on the live binding designer and visual live bindings. But this just shows you how easy it is to put together a C++ database application that you can run on 32-bit Windows, 64-bit Windows, and OS X. So here's 64-bit version, and again, it works the same as 32-bit. Same thing will run on Macintosh as well. So that's how easy it is to build a simple database application in C++ Builder using the Visual Live Bindings Designer, the Live Binding Wizard, and using the ClientDataSet in your C++ applications. There are many other ways to do database access. There's our DB Express set of components. We'll see those in the future. We also have support for building multi-tier applications with DataSnap, clients and servers. You can also use DBGo for ADO, so if you have some ADO data sources, you can get at it there. And we have support for direct components for talking to our Interbase database, Interbase server, Interbase to go, Interbase desktop editions. Lots of controls here for doing table and query operations. So that was just a first quick look at building a C++ database application, in this case using the client dataset.